Jim, I was lucky enough to speak to an expert on the subject of water quality and forever chemicals, and she taught me things that will lead me down many rabbit holes of knowledge.
Good.
Hoya hiked.
Yes.
She's with Rising Springs. Has made water her life, really. Water filtration systems, water reclamation in cities. But she taught, the interview's going to be released soon. But that was incredible.
Good.
The water systems are at least being looked after by someone I know cares about it. And you guys definitely watch the interview. We'll have a link down in the description so you can find it once it's released. But she is from Rising Springs and made it apparent that it's not just another water company. It's not someone just bottling water. It's what makes Rising Springs unique.
And mentioning people who are looking after water, in every city probably, they're river keepers or ocean keepers. They're people who are dedicated to protecting the environment and making sure the water is as pure as it can be. And we could do one whole show on who's polluting the ocean and polluting our rivers. But we have to stick to microplastics right now because that's what we want to talk about. And speaking of those, there's another little tidbit for you. Americans ingest at least 74,000 microplastic particles each year. And that's why they came up 5 grams a week, roughly the equivalent of a credit card. And that's from this issue of Consumer Report, June 2020. It said, and here's something, how does another reason it affects health? There is evidence, at least in animals, and by the way, we are animals.
We like to forget that.
Yes, that microplastics can cross the hardy membrane, protecting the brain from many foreign bodies that get into the bloodstream. There's some evidence that mothers may be able to pass microplastics through their placenta to a developing fetus, according to research from Rutgers Center for Urban Environmental Sustainability.
It's just so small.
Go right to the baby.
Can slip right through the cells.
Yes, scary stuff. Very scary stuff.
And it's easy to forget that it affects us all. And here we have a clip with Nicoya from Rising Springs. She'll be going over what makes Rising Springs so special, but we'll include a link down in the description to the full interview once that's released.
Rising Springs is bottled out of a source in Pine, Idaho, about an hour and a half outside of Boise, Idaho, at the base of the Sawtooth Mountains. The Sawtooths are in the largest contiguous wildlands in the United States, so the source is incredibly protected. The water itself rises from an aquifer from 2.2 miles deep, making it the deepest source in the United States. And it's protected by this granite batholith, which is the largest granite batholith in the world. And the water itself fell as rain or snow about 16,000 years ago. So it fell before any type of environmental or man-made contamination. So it's never come in contact with our modern day world. As the water rises, it comes up through 2 miles of quartz crystal. So it picks up the silica out of the quartz on its journey to the surface. It also comes out at a pH of 9.4. So it's got a high alkalinity. And the water is pure to parts per quadrillion, which is the smallest particle we could test down to, free of, like I said, any type of modern day contamination, including the plastics that you were discussing. Yeah, so that journey we were speaking to, it took us about a year to really dive into packaging. And when we first, had decided, yes, we did want to relaunch the brand, we had assumed we would go into glass. And we knew we were going to be a direct-to-consumer company. When we started researching glass, it was clear that, the carbon footprint was much higher than we had realized. And just from the production and the transportation to the recycling, it had a high impact. And so we were hopeful for a lot of, new technologies, plant-based plastics, all these different, things we had kind of heard about. And we researched all of them, and none of them were viable for the product at this time. We hope that they will be soon. But when we saw the bag-in-box technology that most of us are familiar with, wine coming in a box, and we started researching that, such a low carbon footprint for the volume of water that we're transporting. And so that was a great idea. We did know that we needed to offer and support a way to upcycle the plastic liner that's inside, which is significantly less plastic than you would have if you had that in single serve. And it's, the BPA, BPF, BPS free. And we test for leakage. So we test all of our batches and we let them sit, I think, from a year ago or however long. I'm not super great on those numbers, but, we test for any phthalate leakage into the water. There's never been any, which makes us feel really good. So then it's about, so we feel like the consumer is well cared for. So what do we do with the plastic to be responsible? And we first thought that 3D printing would be an amazing option. And we did, we sent the plastic off, and yes, there is the ability to do that, but we would have to just gather tons of plastic bags. And we're just not that big of a company right now. So we found a company in Boise, which will upcycle every part of the bag, the spout, even the little tag that you pull off, the safety seal, into synthetic diesel. And so for now, that seems like the best upcycling option we have. We stay, very involved in what our options are and are very conscious of and remain flexible with our ability to pivot if needed, and so when there's other options available, we will look into those.
So 92% of public water supplies in the tap water test positive. 93% of bottled water tested positive. And those are the chemicals that we actually have identified to test. So that makes things...
And we know, and we won't get into it right now, but you can watch Dark Waters if you want a nice movie to watch to enlighten you. It may depress you. But Dark Waters,
you need to know it, though.
You need to know it. Watch that movie, Dark Waters. When we start pulling back the veil on how this has come into our lives, and I believe no one started off, no company, no individual, with the intention of harming anyone.
No.
Microplastics, the way they've come into our life, the intention was easy to carry, easy to make, cheaper. And actually, environmentalists pushed it because they wanted to save the trees. No paper bags at the grocery store. Don't do all this paper everywhere is terrible.
And the promise of recycling. Being able to continually reuse it.
Well, as we say, the chain has broken. We're better off to go back. And now we're doing much better with forests, replanting them growing. And what I like to point out about timber and forest is we have so fewer trees than we ever have. No, we haven't. People never take into account linear foot of trees. For the last 100 years that we've been around doing this, they've been growing up too, not just out. So they're much more density in lumber than you think. Not that we shouldn't mass tear, clear cut everything, but it's sustainable and we can do this.
And they help us breathe. So we do have to look out for them.
And if we're going to recycle, what's easier than paper to recycle?
Breaking down the paper is the promise of microplastics is it's difficult to break down. It lasts forever. That was the ploy. That was the sell. But the problem is it does. It does exactly what they say it will do.
It does.
It will outlive the container. It'll outlive the product. You don't need milk that spoils in 14 days to be held in a container that lasts for 3,000 years.
Or however long it lasts. Who knows if you're really perfect environment, how long a piece of plastic would last. But if we don't, again, I'll go back to if we don't attack it at the source, it's not going to make any difference. It has to be done there. If you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel because we do more than water. We do a lot of things from uncovering military secrets to investigative reporting in our government, which I've been doing for about 40 years.
And if you have any ideas for a future episode, please do contact us at contact@hackingthetruth.com, and we'll be able to email you back and hopefully open up a dialogue and see what you'd like us to investigate.
And we'll do it. We are mobile now.
Yes.
And we want to be mobile. We've been in this studio far too long with COVID-19.
Yeah, COVID threw a wrench in everything.
How many, I don't know how many people we've got lined up to interview, but it's a lot.
Yes.
So we have a couple years' work by the time we start getting to them, which is a good thing.
Yes. And we love remote interviews, but it's so much nicer to sit across from someone, sit next to someone at a table, and really engage with them and learn from them.
Yes, very much so.